We are good to go. Okay. We're recording. And this is the window. And here is the thing. Awesome. Okay. Can everyone see that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Let's begin.
Alrighty, so yeah, let's get started. Jonathan, thanks for making time to meet with us today, and Zach. Yeah, so we just kind of wanted to walk through this midterm presentation to review kind of the overall purpose and scope of our project, how far we've come, where we're going, and just kind of what it's going to look like moving forward. So let's just jump right in. Alrighty, so let's see, I can kick us off. We're just kind of reviewing the purpose and the scope of this project. And Jonathan, as we're going through and kind of walking through the slides, we also want to hear your thoughts about how we've been doing as a team, how this project has been going, if you think we're on track with kind of the purpose and what we're doing with it, or if there's anything that we need to change. So originally, we defined the purpose of this project as a way in which we can identify areas and provide suggestions through which Continental Bank can continue to improve the efficiency of their regular business processes. As you know, Jonathan, we've been working with a couple of different departments within the company. But I think that overall, this purpose does tie into helping them improve their efficiency overall. The scope of this project, began with us meeting with the different department heads from each of the branches of the company, specifically with Jackie from Podio and Burton from Deposits and Tim and Eric from Credit, to kind of go through their pain points and the best ways that we could help them. And since those interviews, we've been conducting research and analysis and have gotten started on those. And yeah, so Jonathan, would you kind of agree that those are the ways that we're helping out, that that's kind of a correct purpose for this project?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, again, I think initially there was even a broader scope in terms of you were also talking with sales and operations, in addition to credit and deposits, and then compliance too. And then we've kind of narrowed it down to where we feel like you can make the greatest impact and focused in on those areas. And certainly the CRM is vitally important in terms of like onboarding new customers and managing prospects and things of that nature. So the work that you're doing with Jackie is really important. Deposits is a new product and service, and so that's, you know, one of the areas where reporting and dashboarding and is really important from the standpoint of trying to manage a new product or service and really understand where maybe we are doing well, and then also places where we can make improvements. So your help with Burton is really vital to kind of getting that product off the ground. And then there is no more important department than kind of the credit and underwriting. I didn't even really understand that. And I had 20 plus years of banking, but most of that was in investments. I always thought it was compliance, but really credit is the group that makes sure that the risk that we're taking on and the money that we're lending is they're trying to mitigate it as much as possible. So the work you're doing to try and help us kind of hone in on whether we're being too conservative or whether we're being too liberal in the way that we're underwriting loans, so that we can either make sure that we're continuing to mitigate effectively, or whether we should kind of loosen things up so that we can make sure that the revenue generation is where it needs to be. Again is really important. So And I think that's kind of where we've really focused your energy. So it's kind of in the places that I think it was most needed. And again, then it keeps the scope tight enough where you can actually have a viable impact rather than spreading you too thin, where you might get like a broad education across the scope of financial services. This way you can actually help to effectively impact positively the different departments and give us some ongoing work product that we can continue to use, but then also you get to see the project through to fruition and get to really see the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, and that's definitely what we're going for. We want to create as much value as we can with the time that we have. And just like you were saying, with all of those other departments, that would have been difficult. So we do appreciate you helping us to focus that in on the 3 different departments. So with that, we did want to review the deliverables that we discussed with you in our meeting last week. And you just did a really good job, Jonathan, of kind of recapping them for us, with working with Jackie and Podio to create that interactive reporting system, creating the survey for how employees are using Podio, and kind of helping her determine if it's a useful tool to be used in the company. With deposits and Burton automating that process of formatting data for his reports from Jaspersoft. And then, as you were just saying, with credit, helping them analyze their credit scores and metrics and their defaulting scores to see where we can capture more revenue. One point that we did want to address with you is that these deliverables are a little bit different from the deliverables that we outlined in our engagement letter. Our deliverables from that letter included meeting with the department heads and kind of conducting an analysis on their needs, and we did that. And we talked about that in our meeting last week with you. But then that engagement letter also included creating some different BI reports for those branches. But I think that deliverable has changed as we interviewed Jackie and Burton and Tim and Eric. It kind of, I guess, adapted into these new deliverables that we're looking at now, which we think will be a lot more beneficial, a lot more helpful for them. That third deliverable was performing some credit analysis for Tim and Eric, so that has stayed the same. But we just wanted to make sure that you're aware as well that kind of the deliverables have changed throughout the semester, and although they're not the same as the engagement letter, we really do hope that they continue to be helpful for you and Jackie and Burton and Tim and Eric, and just for Continental Bank overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about it, and I kind of alluded to the fact that, requirements documents and, like you said, engagement letters kind of have a tendency to change over time. And I think part of the reason that happened was your guys' engagement of those department heads and the questions that you ask and the probing that you did helped to really kind of refine and kind of vet out what was going to be most valuable to them. So, I mean, I think that's just kind of a consequence of the fact that, you had that initial discussion, they're kind of throwing a bunch of stuff out there, and you try to ask as many questions as you can, but really you've done a good job of vetting so that you can get down to something that is a deliverable that they're actually going to use. It's something that you guys can deliver upon too, because I think we tightened the time frame and did some different things. So yeah, I'm very comfortable with that, and I think our subsequent conversations with the different department heads has kind of led us to that end where this is really what they're looking for and wanting. So you're delivering on something that is actionable for them.
Perfect. Well, I'm glad that's clear, and we are really excited to be working with each of these people as well. So with that, I think I'm going to turn the time over to Tanner, who's going to talk a little bit about the details of these deliverables.
All right, thanks, Shelby. And yeah, thanks as well to Jonathan. We understand that you've done a lot of, maybe stuff that perhaps we haven't really seen or been involved with as far as coordinating a lot of these meetings for us. and just kind of helping us narrow some things down. So we really appreciate everything that you've done to help us, and Zach as well for guiding us and giving us his input and helping us stay focused and things like that. So so just moving forward. Sorry.
Let me just say, just real quick, Jonathan, this is Zach. I don't know if you've met. Just wanted to
Yeah, but he
introduce
sent me
you.
some emails. So
Yeah, he's the TA for our group, and we meet with him often. So
awesome.
and Zach, this is Jonathan, the sponsor. Yeah. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no, thanks. Cool. Yeah, so now we know all each other a little bit better. Yeah, it's kind of funny that it's been however long, and we're just kind of having that first point of contact with everyone here, but it is what it is. So just like Shelby had said, we've spent a lot of time up until this point just kind of preparing things and really narrowing down what we want to do. So we're really excited to be where we're at now, to where we can really start, taking action and really putting a lot of what's on paper into some actual, tangible things that we can look at. So as far as the Podio things go with Jackie and them, we have made some pretty good progress so far. What we're wanting to do is basically just create some reports that are formatted in the way that Jackie wants them to be. So we still have a little bit of tweaking to be made on that report, just kind of get it done in the simplest, most efficient way as possible. But that is something that we made some progress on, and we're looking to wrap that up here pretty soon. After I'm kind of done explaining these in a little bit more detail, Hayden's going to go over some actual timelines, so we'll be able to see that. But so that's kind of where we're at with that Podio thing. Shelby took lead, and we drafted up a survey, which has been approved by Jackie as well. This is going to be sent out to our to the employees over there for them to kind of just assess how they've been using Podio and how effective that is on their workflows. This is actually something that you, Jonathan, had suggested that we could do to because we were trying to decide whether it would be better to try and look at some login and time spent doing things data versus getting some actual survey feedback from them. So we thank you for suggesting that for us, and we've got that drafted. That's going to take a little bit of time, we're anticipating, to get all of that information back from all of your employees. So we're going to shoot for really looking at that and kind of include that towards the end of our project of maybe some steps moving forward. So that's just kind of where we're at and steps moving forward for Podio and CRM. Do you have any comments on those? And anyone on my team, feel free to add comments here. But Jonathan, Zach, if you guys have comments, those are also appreciated.
You know me, I'll talk a lot. No, I definitely think the work you're doing with Jack is important, and I do think that kind of getting feedback from the users so that we can refine the workflows to be something more that they're willing to engage with, and that it's creating more utility for them is really important. So I look forward to seeing those results and kind of getting that feedback. So
great. Cool. And then moving forward to deposits, this is a pretty straightforward task on paper. Implementation might be a little more complicated because these sorts of things tend to go that way. But basically, we had been asked to just create or format some data in a way that can help Burton make his reports the way he wants to, because I know he's bogged down quite a bit with spending time to format things the way he wants to report them how he wants. So how we want to go about this is just to stay within Excel, just to keep things simple, write some VBA functions and code that can automate a lot of that, and then that way he can import his data, press a button or whatever, get that automated how he wants. and then move forward with creating the reports business as usual, hopefully save a lot of time on that. So deposits, we're feeling pretty good about that. Do you think that, we're kind of shooting the right way with this, Jonathan?
Yeah, I definitely do. And again, I think this is probably where it's probably going to take more time to kind of refine this. And this is really that whole kind of data cleansing and, data wrangling stuff that we kind of talked about. So I certainly think this is probably where, I would expect the majority of your time to kind of be spent just on the fact that it's just a lot of work to get that into a format that's going to work for him, and then automating that. But I think it's really valuable because that's something you end up doing a lot in data analysis. And so, no, I think you're doing great there. And I've gotten feedback from Burton as well.
All right.
Jonathan,
And we feel, sorry,
just a quick question. Just because I'm curious, Jonathan, do you guys use VBA and anything else? Like that of already?
No, I know where we've used it. We've had a couple of employees that have used it just because they had the skill set to do it. I typically don't work in Excel a ton. So I don't necessarily use it. I can, but I tend to use different tools to be able to.
That's an obvious. If you're not using it, then I totally get that. But
that is something that we do have the skill set to maintain it actively. And Burton's somebody who, again, and that's why we kind of talked a lot about, from a coding perspective, just making sure that it's well commented so that it makes it easier to maintain after you guys are gone. But I'm very comfortable with the fact that that's the direction you're going with this, and I think it's the right decision. So
yeah, and it would be an important point to say that if Burton needed any help after we were gone, there would be people there to give him that help.
Yeah, no, certainly we can support it. So, and we have Credit actually used some VBA in a credit memorandum that they had kind of thrown together, and that person's left, and so we are maintaining it at this point. He didn't comment very well though, so it's been a little more difficult to kind of understand and have to extrapolate what he did, and we've had to rewrite some things just to make it make sense to us. But yeah, we're capable of doing that. So
yeah, and I think the underlying kind of assumption that we made was, since Burton was already working in Excel, we didn't want to throw new tools his way.
Right.
So that was kind of the the decision making process behind that. So yeah, I mean, what we're planning on just kind of drawing out before we just start typing things, just kind of drawing out a plan of how we want things to look as far as what functions do what, and then we can actually get those implemented. So we're really excited to do that. And then moving forward onto credit, the last thing that we're looking forward to doing is we had a really good discussion with the credit and underwriting guys, just kind of explaining their model that they had used. We felt that was really helpful for us to kind of get some more insight into what that looked like and kind of specify to what we would be doing. So we really appreciated that as a team. And from what we can understand, this is kind of going to be a two-step process, to where we're first going to be, taking a lot of the old assessments that have been made based on, previous model, and then kind of comparing them to how those same accounts would be assessed now. And then we're basically going to determine, looking at from time A to time B, if there's been a significant difference, basically, between what that looked like before and what that looked like now. And then depending on how that looks, we can then, if there's going to be a significant change that would warrant an adjustment to the model based on that analysis that we've done, then we can move forward and see if we can, go about altering the model a little bit to open things up or shut things up, depending on how that's looking. Um, so I guess the second step is kind of more conditional on the first step, where if we find that significant difference, then we'll move forward. If not, we can, just call it good there and say that we didn't really find a significant difference. So do you have any input on that, or, maybe some suggestions for how we can do that the best way possible for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of what we planned out as far as like getting you the data set, and really at this point, I'm just waiting for Eric to kind of sign off on it, and then I'll get that over to you, and you'll have that in hand. I think that either way, certainly if we find that the model is doing its job, that validation is really important. So kind of getting your guys' view of that and having you kind of go through, some sort of meaningful analysis of it, I think is very valuable, even if it is just, it looks like it's doing what it should be doing. And it seems like the thresholds that they've kind of put in place are helping to mitigate risk in a meaningful and the correct way. Subsequently, if we are a little bit outside of that, and we can open up and be a little more liberal about the thresholds, so that we can actually underwrite more loans, that has a revenue component that's really important. So I mean, I think it's really valuable. It's certainly something that I don't think Eric or Tim could really take on themselves. So I think that's kind of important to note, that it's work that probably wouldn't end up being done otherwise. And so no, I mean, I think the methodology that we kind of discussed is the right way to move forward on it. And then the results, whether it's just validating the hypothesis that these are the correct thresholds, or whether it's proving that you could go, and then subsequently, if maybe they're too, I don't know that the way that we're going to go about it is going to necessarily like say that we're being too liberal, because we're not going to be looking at it. It's harder for us to do that analysis the opposite direction. So no, I mean, I feel really good about this, and actually I'm the most excited to kind of see the results of this piece. Like I said, credit's really important to the bank, any bank, and I think this is a really valuable task. So
cool. Yeah, and I know you guys, I mean, obviously you feel that there might be a significant difference, and that's why we're looking into it. So I think we're kind of anticipating maybe seeing some differences. So along with you, we're excited to see where those differences can take us and how we can improve things a little bit. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Just like I said, a lot of planning, but we're excited to have those plans really solid now, and then move forward and actually get some implementation. And I'm going to turn the time over to Hayden, because he's got timelines for us. That way we can all be on the same page as what we're going to do and when we're going to do it. Thank you.
Also, I thought it was interesting when Tim and Eric were showing us the model of just putting in the different scores for the different grades that people can get. I always thought that it would be a lot more complicated, and then he said this was one of the more sophisticated ones. So I thought that was kind of cool. And it's good to know, just in general, really interesting. Okay, so we as a team decided that we work really well together. So we kind of decided to just focus all our time on one of these tasks and work to completion, and then start on the next one. We've been doing a lot with Podio already. And so like it says here, March 4th, which is the end of next week, we want to have everything done basically for Jackie, and check up with her and meet with her to see if it exceeds her expectations. And We've already made a draft and a draft of a survey and sent it to Jackie for approval. She liked it. So she can kind of analyze what everyone's using Podio for and when and how often, all those questions that we were talking about. So that's already finishing up. And so then the week after that would be when we kickstart on deposits and look back on our VBA, get that all figured out, and do some tests and then walk that through with Burton by the 18th. And then kind of the same idea after with credit. March 21st, begin comparison. By that time, we feel like we should have the data and be able to just devote our time to that. And then before the, by the end of the month, make sure we've got all those scores, the old scores and the new scores sorted out and ready to analyze. And then we can do that by the 7th and present our results. So kind of simple, kind of crazy that the semester's half over already. And that kind of leads into our last slide we have here. What we've been doing, and you've mentioned it a lot, Jonathan, is a lot of preparation since we started working with you guys, which included meeting with all the we focus on the departments that we're working with right now, but we did have to meet with everybody and talk to them about and narrow down what we wanted to do and what you guys thought would be most useful. And so, and you've kind of already said it, we want to make sure we're adding value to the company, and wanted to ask, are we going in the right direction? But especially, have we so far been exceeding your expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have been doing great, and I think you've been really patient. I think one of the difficult things, in this process is that even from like a data perspective, I deal with this a lot on the technology side, but data and reporting and dashboarding, people have a lot of ideas, but those ideas are really kind of high level. And so you've done a good job of then meeting with the departments and kind of going through the process of drilling into the details, because really all of this data analysis and automation and, trying to put together reports requires detail. The system doesn't know, when you're creating a report, and I get this a lot, they'll say, I want a report for credit. Okay, what fields do you want? What time frame do you want? Do we have to do any translation on some of the fields because of the way that they come out? There's so many questions, and I think you guys have been very patient and diligent in really drilling down so that you can get to that deliverable. And I think that's that's very real world, because that's something you're always going to have to deal with when you're given a project. You're going to get it at the high level, and you're really going to have to spend a lot of time kind of drilling into it to get to the detail level so that you can deliver on what they need. And I think you guys have done a great job of doing that. And again, I think we've been meeting on a regular cadence. I think your communication has been really good, and I have been really impressed by the questions that you're asking. They're insightful, and I think you've been working hard. So yeah, you've definitely been exceeding my expectations.
That's great to hear. We appreciate it. Let me ask it again, but a different way. Let's say we get all 3 of these projects done. If there was one extra thing that you would want us to do, can you think of anything along those lines that would be something that we could shoot for? And if you can't think of anything, that's okay. We'll maybe come up with our own that we can try to, convey even more value. But do you have any ideas along those lines?
I mean, again, from my perspective, it's always trying to come up with, different ways of like presenting information. So one of the things that, one of the luxuries we don't necessarily have at Continental is we don't have, somebody who can kind of, brainstorm or come up with ideas of ways to present information to make it actionable by our different departments. And so, anything that and again, that's like super broad in its scope, and, it's kind of meant to be a little bit, but if you guys have any ideas about how, financial services companies are using dashboards today. And again, I can, we kind of sent out some stuff from Tableau and, Microsoft BI kind of at the beginning. If you guys run across some things from like a banking or financial services perspective that seems interesting, or might be insightful as to a way that we can present some of the, again, banks are pretty homogeneous. We do two things, and then sometimes we bolt on other things, but we take your money and put it into a deposit account, and then we lend it out to somebody. So it's really kind of a straightforward process, but you can look at that in a lot of different ways for it to, to help manage it, whether it's on the deposit side and looking at the rates, and maybe looking at the differences between the loan rates and the deposit rates and what the net interest margin is. There's just so many different things. So, if you wanted to put together, kind of, some ideas from that standpoint of ways dashboarding that financial services uses, because you've kind of now been through the process of meeting with departments and kind of talking through things, and they think they know what they want, but they don't really know how they want it, or they like to see things. They're very visual thinkers, and so that might kind of spur some ideas, because it is hard to kind of wade through it with them. And I can't tell you how many reports I've written that have just ended up going nowhere because they actually don't hit the mark. And it's not because we haven't tried, it's just because we're not really like understanding one another, or maybe that we're not capturing the data that we need. And so that there's a lot of things in that regard. So I think that's really valuable in trying to determine into making data and analysis actionable and accessible to people, is how to present the information in a meaningful way. And there's so many ways to do it. Sometimes they just need to see it in action to kind of understand, what's possible or what they might look at. And I know that, we've got a brand new sales manager in Jason, and we've got a brand new credit manager to us in Tim. And I don't know that they have all the tools and views into the information that they would want to have. So I think ultimately, just in a broad sense, they would find that valuable.
Well, we'll put that on the we'll keep our eyes open and put what thought we can into that as we go, because
Awesome.
we definitely want to do all we can. So that's really our presentation for you today. Zach, do you have any extra comments or things you would want to share? Yeah.
Yeah, I think before we close, we just want to make sure we express to you, Jonathan, as Tanya was saying before, how much we enjoy working with you, how grateful we are for the chances that we've had to work with you and to learn and to gain a lot of these new skills. At least for me, a lot of these areas that we're working in are things that I've never seen before, and things that I'm at least learning a lot as we're going through these processes. So we really do appreciate how much you do for us, and how you're supporting us with, and how you're giving us opportunities to help you as well. And I think, Zach, you said you did have something that you wanted to add.
Yeah, so Jonathan, just a quick reminder to please fill out, if you haven't already, the survey, sponsor feedback survey. It should be in your email somewhere. If you can't find it, let me know or let the team know, and we'll get that resent to you. But I know you've offered your feedback here, and it's been fantastic. But there's just, it's a very quick survey that will hopefully help the team. So
No, absolutely. I'll get after it.
Awesome. Thank you.
No, thank you guys. Great presentation. And then again, yeah, I really appreciate all the work you're doing. You guys are doing great. And I know that when we come out on the other side, there's going to be some really good stuff. So I'm excited.
Good. All right. Well, thanks, Jonathan. We will catch
Thank you.
you next week.
Yeah, see you on Monday.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.